So my name is Joe Bird. I'm an agent here in Howard County. It's kind of my story of building a career, burning out, and figuring out how to focus on profitability and not just being busy. And hope that me sharing my journey will help anybody else who might be feeling lost or burned out. I didn't realize this was an hour, so I'm not sure how long it's going to go. So feel free to interject and ask questions and, kind of riff on it. But basically, it's Profitable Life. I wrote an article years ago for Baltimore Real Producers, kind of when I would call like the heyday of my upswing in my career, about the idea of a profitable life. And the idea I had in that article was well intended, a little bit not exactly what I would believe in today, which was the difference between a career and a job is you go home from a job. You don't go home from a career. It follows you around. You live your career. So when you're on the sports fields with your kids, you're promoting your business. When you're hanging out at the barbecue, you're promoting your business. You're always on nonstop. And the theory that I had then and that I practiced, which works to a certain point until you stop putting up guardrails, is that in those events, you never get a break. You never get some time off, and you start chasing and chasing and chasing. And everything in life just winds up being business. And if you are addicted to being busy like I am, then the family stuff starts to slide. Those other things start to slide. So kind of the culmination of the story, 2021, I wound up having 3 surgeries in December, all minor outpatient stuff, but all little stuff that kind of just built up from putting myself in harm's way for, I had carpal tunnel and ulnar in both arms and things like that. I decided I was going to take December off. I did 110 units, 50 million in personal production in 2021, plus my team's production. And I said, I'm going to take December off and I'm going to really enjoy the holidays. And, I can't really type. I can't, obviously voice to text, I did a little bit, can't totally detach, but it was like, it's going to be the best month, is the best year of my life is what I told myself. It was best business year of my life, not the best year. And as soon as the noise calmed down, I realized I'm not the dad I want to be. I'm not the husband I want to be. I'm not the person I want to be. I'm not taking care of my health. I've got chronic health issues that I'm just ignoring. And really have went on this multi-year journey of trying to figure out what that looks like. How can you balance work and life? To go back to that article from 2015 or whenever I wrote it, the intent of that article, but not the practice of that article, if that all makes sense. And my slide's not working, but there's just kind of an outline for me to talk about. So, a little bit about me. I grew up as a punk rock kid, played in a bunch of bands, toured, all that kind of stuff, ran a record label for 7 years. Had a lot of fun, was a disruptor by nature, did a lot to change the music industry. I was the first company that you could put music on iTunes or Napster or Rhapsody without signing over any rights to your music. When we went out of business, we lost out to a direct competitor that said they were independent. It turned out they were Sony. Created the direct competitor to the product. Yeah, exactly. So we obviously couldn't compete with that. And I had a lot of just shame about that company going out of business, and it was my life forever. I remember answering phone calls on Christmas Day from out-of-country bands that we were working with, and my wife getting really mad at me, or taking a call at 2 a.m. because they're in Italy and I got to answer that call. And my wife, fiance at the time, girlfriend at the time, being really mad at me. And I'm like, but you don't understand, this is my passion, this is my identity, this is everything I am. So the busyness in real estate didn't come because it was lucrative. It helped, it certainly fueled that process, but it came because that's just my natural personality. When I go in, I go all in on something. So I had a lot of shame about that. We went out of business, wasn't great. Years later, a couple of years ago, I finally realized, wait, we didn't set out to make money in that company. That wasn't our goal. We were teenagers. We set out to make the industry better for fellow musicians. And we did that. We accomplished that. So I now have pride, even though it failed. So grew up in Howard County, went to River Hill High School, went to college in Chicago, played music. Like I said, started that first company when I was in between my freshman and sophomore year of college. Had a lot of fun. Never made money. I think the most I made in a single year in that time was like 30 grand. We went out of business, decided I was going to have a family, I was going to get married, and decided I needed something more stable than music for money, so decided real estate was the next stable idea.
Wow.
Exactly. I'm also a big believer that like ADHD and other deficiencies can actually be superpowers when used properly. So I know that I can't sit behind a desk for 8 hours a day. I will go nuts.
What was your major?
Arts, Entertainment, Media Management, which is basically music business. So it's a business degree focused on music and marketing. It's oddly crazy how similar the business models wind up being. because we would go out on like MySpace or all those different websites and scout bands. It's no different than going out and scouting clients and then the follow-up and checking in. And we actually, when I ran that company, we actually had an office in Mumbai where we had 30 VAs going on the internet scouting for us, and then we were able to hire the managers here to do the actual sales. So that was back in 2008, somewhere in that window. So that was kind of fun.
I didn't know VAs
We created it. We found somebody and we helped him start his business out there to then support us.
Okay.
So we could save more. That worked out great. We realized when he bought a motorcycle and I was still not making any money, we realized we messed up the calculations because he was making far more money than I was making as the owner of the company, but that's a different story. I remember where I was at now. So I completely forget where I was at.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Getting into real estate. So I decided my family had a background in real estate, mostly multifamily properties. Decided I wanted to do something. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Was I going to go into a full-time, go into a part-time? I decided to take the classes while I was working at a diner and get my license. Said, yeah, I think I want to try it, but I want to try part-time so I need I have a car payment, I have rent, things like that. So I interviewed a bunch of different places. I wound up meeting Eric Pakula Professionals, wound up hiring. He offered me a spot, but he didn't do part-time. I had to go full-time, and I said, well, what do I got to lose? Let's try it. First 6 months, I sold 2 houses. That's pretty typical. The first calendar year, so 2012, I sold 49 houses, 48 buyers, 1 listing. I worked 7 days a week. I worked 10, 12-hour days. I remember when the daylight savings time or whatever hit and it got darker earlier, I was really mad because that was biting into the time that I could be working. And I just worked my face off. So
What year was that?
2012. So by 2015, I was out producing everybody on the team. I had built a team inside the team. And I've never been one to chase accolades. I like chasing success, but not chasing accolades per se. So I could have ventured out and started my own team at that well before 2015. But if it's not broke, why fix it? Underneath Eric. Eric and I are good. We're friendly. Everything's great. Built a team inside the team. Obviously left a lot of money on the table doing that. But I said, you got me here. Why would I leave? Flash forward to 2018. Decided that maybe their ceiling really is here. So 2017 was the first year I sold 100 homes in a year. Went to Eric, said, I don't know where this is going to go, but I'm starting to feel like I've hit a wall. We started talking about entering into a merger acquisition where I would do a slow takeover of the company. He would phase out. Unfortunately, shortly after that, he was in a terrible car accident, was in a coma for multiple months. And then 2020 hit. And 2020 hit, and the market went absolutely bonkers. And again, I'm already selling 100 plus units, still doing that. I'm running the team. That's flash forward to that 2021 where I went, I thought I was living the best life. I thought I was the most successful. Not that my marriage was bad, not that I didn't have a good relationship with my kids, but it wasn't what I wanted it to be and what I thought it was. And I realized in that slowdown that the lie I'm telling myself is that I'm doing this to make my family happy and to support my family and provide for my family. But what really is going to happen in the end result is I'm going to wind up getting divorced. My kids are going to hate me, and I'm probably going to die of a heart attack early because I'm not taking care of my body myself. So many years of going through that process of how do I figure that out. So what I call the fall, we as an industry, and I think Peter, if anybody was in here for Peter's class, Peter's my partner, and I'll get to that in a second. He made a comment about he sent a picture of him sitting on a laptop with Hawaii Beach in the background and commented the best job ever or something like that. And he wasn't trying to be ironic. He was saying, I get to be in Hawaii, therefore this is the best job ever. We have a hustle culture in this industry where did your agent take the call at 10 p.m. on a Sunday? We have agents set deadlines for 8 p.m. on Sundays. No, I want to spend as much time with my family as I possibly can. So I think as an industry, we need to pull away from the hustle culture. We set a bad example for everybody else. You need to be there for your clients. Don't get me wrong. You can't not answer your phone and not answer emails. But a reasonable response time, I think, is to be appreciated. What I found is I've started to set more and more boundaries. They respect that more. That if you give them minutes, they're going to take the mile. But if you start setting your boundaries, then they go, you know what? I'm going to wait till tomorrow to send this text. Or I'm not going to care if he doesn't respond till tomorrow. One thing I'll go back to my peak years of production, if you will. I'd set a goal, I'd hired a coach. I was in the 60-some house range at the time. Said, what's your wild goal? And I said, 100 units. He goes, what are you going to do to reward yourself if you get to 100 units? So I don't know, go on vacation. He goes, that's done. That's not real. You're going to take a day off. And at that point, I was working 7 days a week, 10 plus hour days. So come November, when I did the math and realized I'm going to hit 100, I actually contemplated tanking deals to only get to 99 because I thought if I started taking Sundays off consistently, then I was going to go to business. Nobody was ever going to work with me. They were going to go hire somebody else. And just, again, I was chasing, not failing again. I was chasing, being busy, and it was hard. I did the right thing. I got to 103. I took Sundays off. I have only worked 1, maybe 2 Sundays since 2016. That's not including phone calls and emails and sending offers. That's just part of the deal. But like actually taking appointments. And anytime I've done that, I've flipped a day of the week. So I've taken at least 1 day off from appointments since then. So flash forward to the December 21. I realize I've got this problem. What am I going to do to fix it? We're in the middle of the COVID market. Things are absolutely bonkers. I started flipping the pendulum too far the other way. I started trying to set too many boundaries and saying, you know what, I need to focus on this. And my business suffered because of it. So not that I still did plenty well, don't get me wrong. I supported my family, all that kind of stuff. But I wasn't anywhere near those kind of marks. So I decided at that moment, as I went through that journey, that, all right, the pendulum always goes to the one side. Happiness is going to be in the middle. So how do I go back to that profitable life mentality and build the life that's profitable? That's going to have to include work. That's going to have to include personal. They're going to have to mesh because that's life. We can't go home from this job, from this career. But how do I build those boundaries in order to run that profitable life? And that's what I've done. So what I've done by doing that is believing in myself, investing in myself, really looking at profit versus production. I'm not chasing 100 units. I don't want to sell 100 units. I want my team to sell 100 units, but I don't want to personally sell 100 units. My goal is 50 to 75 units in a year. So that's what I'm on track to do this year. Last year I got back to the 50 mark, which was what I wanted to do last year. But I went and decided, okay, if I'm working an internet lead or a home light lead or whatever, and it's got a 35% referral fee, that's great. I didn't know those people. That's how I cut my teeth. That first year I did 49 deals. 32 of them had a 35% referral fee on it. So lost out on a lot of referral fees there, but I looked at it as I'm starving and I got 65% of those 49 deals, and that's way better than anything I could have gotten. And I built that book of business from that. So, okay, if I take those leads, then that's money on the table, and I'm chasing. I got to make all the phone calls. I got to do all the prospecting. Whereas I have agents on the team that are cutting their teeth, that they have the time to do that. They need to learn those skills. I built my book that way. So I decided I'm only going to work with direct referrals. So I'm not working with internet leads that are cold. If it's a referral from a past client, if it's a past client, if it's a referral from like one of the banks I work with or whatever, then I consider that a direct referral because they're calling me saying, we want to hire you. It's not calling me or me calling them saying, hey, do you want to buy a house? It's the other way around. Or do you want to sell a house? So by doing that, I cut out so much of my time that I can then rededicate back into my family. Both my kids do travel sports, and they're crazy travel sports that travel ice hockey and travel softball. Plus baseball, plus dance. It's a lot of games. So in doing that, my wife works for me. She stays at home, manages the house and the kids and the family, and does marketing and admin work for me. But the kids have to be in the same place at the same time, 2 different places at the same time. That's impossible. So I have to dedicate a lot of time to that. So I needed to buy a lot of my time back. Now, what else could I do? Again, I was running half of the Pakula professional team, which was great. It's all working good. But as Eric was retired, it just sort of felt kind of, I'm promoting somebody else's brand, which I have no problem with. I'm not the person that wants my name on everything. I decided, I think it's time. Let's rebrand as the Bird Team. Even though I said I don't want my name on everything. Bird's a unique or a generic enough name that I think it works. It's not the Joe Bird Team, it's the Bird Team. And decided I was with a large corporate brokerage, the Remax, you can look it up, Remax Advantage Realty specifically. And I decided there's so much change happening in the industry that I can't control that, there's mergers and acquisitions, and ironically, Remax just got acquired by Real. And I really like Real. Sean Travazzo is a mentor of mine, or I'm a mentee of his, if you will. So I guess mentor is the right word. Anyway, I really like that company. I think that's a great acquisition. It's going to be good for all parties. But if other brokers that I'm not going to name had acquired a company that I own or that I've worked for, my culture changes without any control on my part. And I didn't want to have that happen. I saw that coming down the pike. So I decided I wanted to go independent. And I was at the point, I'm only working my sphere. I don't need the brand behind me. and talking to a couple agents, Peter Boskus, who owned Red Cedar Real Estate, who's a good friend of mine, and went to him and said, hey, I'm thinking about moving. What could this look like? He said, why don't you come on as a partner? So then I went to the other half of Pakula, Brian Pakula, and said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and do this. Would you like to come with me? And he said yes. So the three of us now own Red Cedar Real Estate, completely boutique independent shop right here in Columbia. The profitability difference for me as an owner,
What's it called?
Red Cedar Real Estate.
Okay.
So we're a small firm. We've got about 15 agents in the company. It's, again, very small, but it's very boutique. We just opened up our new office, renovated the space out. But I'm able to now, and again, I own the company, so I own a portion of the company, so my numbers would be different. But I'm able to sell half the houses and make 3/4 of the revenue profit that I was making working 80 hours a week by probably working 40 hours a week. And it allows me the freedom to say, I know that's there, so now I don't feel guilty. I ran into what a typical conundrum would be in this industry is I would feel guilty when I was with my family that I wasn't working. And when I was working, I was feeling guilty that I wasn't with my family. And I was never present in either because I was so worried about the other. It's a work in progress. I'm not going to say that everything's perfect. It's not. It's life. It's work. But I'm so much further to that balance that I was striving for back in 2012, frankly, when I got in the business, but all the way through the last 5 years or so. Yeah, it's been really good. I also started another startup company. So again, believing in myself and putting into myself. I've had an idea for years and years and years on a startup. Never got around to doing anything with it. Decided now's the time. So I started a company called VPO Homes. It stands for Verified Pre-Owned Homes. So think of a certified pre-owned car. So I like cars a lot too. And I've looked at the different models of buying cars. You can buy the car that's sitting on the side of the road. That's the FSBO. You can buy the car that's on the dealership. That's your MLS. You can buy the car that is new, that it's sitting on the factory. That's like buying a Ryan or a track built, or you can buy a car that you pick everything out, that's custom. But what exists and I always buy my cars certified pre-owned because you get better warranties and let somebody else take that depreciation hit up front. That doesn't exist in real estate. And it seems so obvious that it should, so we figured out how to do it. Has that been the instant overnight success that I was hoping for? Absolutely not. No. Real estate agents don't like change, and it does change the process a little bit. But basically, we do a pre-listing inspection with whatever licensed inspector you want to use. Any repairs are made, the inspector goes back out and verifies the repairs. Then we issue now a 2-year warranty on that, up to 5 years, depending which package you choose, on everything marked satisfactory in the inspection report. So then you get to market that with a certificate that it's been verified pre-owned. On the properties that have done it, a couple handful of properties have done it so far, it's worked really well. It's just a matter of getting it out there into people. But I've had that idea probably since 2015, and I just sat on it. I was too busy to think about it, to do anything about it, and just let it sit in the back of my mind and always thought somebody else was going to do this. And nobody had, so we did it. And I hope it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I think it will. So I've also been on just a wellness journey for myself. So it turns out I have chronic back pain. I have 12 herniated discs in my back from a car accident in 2015. And dealing with chronic pain is no fun and affects lots of parts of your life. And then finally, digging in and working on me, I was able to get to a concierge doctor, and we were able to diagnose and actually figure out what caused the 12 herniated discs. And not that there's any cures for it, but at least we have a plan and there's a treatment plan. So part of that's been a lot of just mental health and well-being, that stuff. Again, being a musician, being creative, I can read a book and it can tell me what to do, but unless I formulate my own version of it, I'm never going to do it. So I created what I call Jammin', which is a morning, or really any time of day, but it's the wellness things that I want to do on a daily basis, or as close to a daily basis as possible. So J stands for journaling. There's an app on your iPhone called Journal, and what it does is it takes pictures you've taken or music you've listened to or places you've been to, and then just says, is there anything you want to share about this experience, or prompts to get you going. And I found that just free journaling is great, but when it's making me think about something in a situation, stopping at McDonald's with my son, but I need to go back to that moment, I can find gratitude in those moments. And so that's worked out really well. The A stands for aqua. So I'm a big believer in hydration. I try to drink close to a gallon of water a day if possible. With some of my chronic things, I drink salt water because I need more salt in my body to force dilation. The other A stands for affirmations. So it kind of goes back to the journaling and the gratitude, but the actual affirmations of telling yourself that you are successful, that you are good, that you are equal, that you are whatever. I try to keep them very low, generalized, but that stuff works really well. First M stands for meditation. I got really into meditation. It works really well. So whether that's guided or instrumental music or just silence, works great. The other M is movement, so some kind of movement. With my issues, I can't lift weights or anything, but staying active. You know, it could be yard work on the weekends. It could be taking a walk on the treadmill or to the lake or whatever it might be. This is kind of the whole key to the whole thing that ties it together, is intention. So not saying yes to everything because it's there in front of me. Picking and choosing what you say yes to, picking and choosing what you say no to. So saying yes is saying no to something else and really making sure that you're there. So I had a perfect example. I had a listing seller call me the other day. I could tell this was never going to end well. I'd get it sold, sure, but it was never going to end well. And I said, no thanks. Which again, go back to 2012 version of me, I would have taken everything I could possibly touch. And then N is for novel reading. It can be, I don't care if it's audiobooks, if it's actually reading, if it's like, I don't care what it is, but there's something about quieting the mind in front of something that takes your attention, that allows you to be present in that moment, that trains you how to be present throughout the rest. So again, the intentionality, I think, is kind of the biggest part of this, is really just knowing, is this actually getting me closer to my goals? So I did Tom Ferry for a long time and had a meeting directly with Tom Ferry. That's one of the quotes he said to me. He said, and it's up on my board in my office, is this getting me closer to my goals? Do it. If not, don't do it. And so we spend so much time doing stuff that doesn't benefit us, maybe gets something done, but doesn't get us to our goals. And I think that's just something to really kind of slow down and think about. So again, the proof in that it worked. I launched VPO. I'm now a partner at Red Cedar. I've got the Bird team. My family is in much better shape. Now, again, we weren't bad, but we're together all the time. Health is much better. My mood is much better. So what I would leave you with, and again, I didn't know it was going to be an hour. I thought it was going to be like 20 minutes. So I got a half hour covered. Then we can go some questions or whatnot, or I can do it again. So my book of business is my lifeline. I knew going into it that working all those hours, I was building a book so that eventually that book could return.